Now we will move on to another exciting session, and it is the spotlight session for the day, which is on media and entertainment. And the topic here at the Media and Entertainment Spotlight is the future of media and entertainment. We have some very exciting speakers. And let me take this moment to introduce the speakers. First spotlight speaker will be Mr. Aniruddha Roy Chaudhary, who is the filmmaker and producer. A prolific name in the world of ad filmmaking before he ventured into film direction. Mr. Aniruddha Roy Chaudhary is a director known for films that are marked by sensitivity, relatability, and a world view that often compels the viewer to think. On his feature film debut earned Tonida, as he is most popularly known, a national award. This was followed by Ontohin, which won as many as 4 national awards. In 2016, after having made some impactful Bengali films like Aparajita Tumi and Buno Hash, Tonida ventured into the Hindi film industry with Pink, the film with Amitabh Bachchan at the fore, but truly driven by its female characters, as most of Tonida's films are. It spurred off many a conversation about what being a woman means in this country and was lauded for its brave narrative. Tonida is now in the middle of the post-production of his next Hindi film, Lost, that stars Yami Gautam, Pankaj Kapoor, and Rahul Khanna, and was recently shot in Calcutta. We warmly welcome you, Mr. Aniruddha Roy Chaudhary, sir, very lovingly known as Tonida. And the next spotlight speaker I'd like to introduce is Ms. Rasika Dugal. She has been trained in the acting at the Film and the Television Institute of India in Pune. She currently lives in Mumbai, and she has been playing significant roles in films, original series, and short films, exploring the nuances of diverse characters in artistically challenging and socially relevant productions. She is known for her performance in various feature films, but most popularly in digital series, her varied roles as the feisty Veena Tripathi in Amazon Prime's Mirzapur, or the idealistic cop in Neeti Singh in Netflix's Delhi Crime, have won her many accolades and much popularity amongst audiences. She was also seen in Hotstar's Out of Love, headlining the series as Dr. Meera Kapoor. She then starred in Meera Nair's Suitable Boy in the role of Savita Mehra. Most recently, she was part of an international audio series titled The Empire, alongside actors like Stephen Fry, Michelle Gomes, and Alexander Owen. Her latest digital outing, Out of Love Season 2 and Mirzapur Season 2, garnered tremendous acclaim and viewership. Ms. Dugal's upcoming projects include Delhi Crime Season 2, Lord Curzon Ki Haveli, and 2 new original series. We warmly welcome you, Ms. Rasika Dugal, ma'am. And our next spotlight speaker will be Ms. Tanya Bami, who is the series head for Netflix India. Ms. Tanya is the series head and of Netflix, which is the world's leading streaming entertainment service. Ms. Bami, who joined Netflix in 2019, leads unscripted series pod in India. She is a seasoned entertainment professional with over 21 years of experience. In these 2 decades, she has had the opportunity to grow along with the business of entertainment in India. She began her career with the world's premier youth brand MTV, and then went on to explore the world of non-fiction programming by working with renowned broadcasting companies like BBC, Star Plus, ZTV. Ms. Tanya was also instrumental in setting up the original series vertical at Woot, Viacom 18's digital arm. We warmly welcome you, Ms. Tanya Bami. And our next spotlight speaker will be Ms. Richa, Chadha, who is also an actress with far excellence. Each time the powerhouse of talent comes on screen, she manages to impress her audience and critics alike. Ms. Richa Chadha is best known for her roles as Bholi Punjaban in Fukre and Fukre Returns, Nagma Khatun in Gangs of Wasipur 1 and 2, and most recently Hiral from Section 375 and Meenu from Panga. Ms. Richa Chadha is currently working on a slate of exciting projects, including the much-awaited Tigbanshu Dhulia's 6 Suspects, soon to release internationally Emmy-nominated digital series Inside Edge Season 3. Anubhav Sinha's Abhi To Party Shuru Hui Hai. These are coming up. Ms. Richa and Ali recently announced their maiden project Girls Will Be Girls as producer under the banner Pushing Button Studios. The project is expected to go on floors in early 2022. We warmly welcome you, Ms. Richa Chadha, ma'am. And our chairperson and moderator for the session is Mr. Govindraj Ethiraj, who is the founder, IndiaSpend and BOOMLive. Mr. Govindraj Ethiraj is a television and print journalist who has reported and written on Indian businesses for over 25 years. He's a media executive and entrepreneur whose public interest journalism ventures are safeguarding the transparency, accuracy, and integrity of news in specific and the internet in general in India and worldwide. Most recently, he founded BOOMLive.in, an independent journalism initiative that fights misinformation and explains issues with the larger objective of making the internet safer. He also founded the award-winning IndiaSpend.org, a public interest journalism outfit which uses data to write and syndicate stories in areas like health, education, environment, and fact-checker, which monitors media, politicians, and other figures for accuracy. Boom and Fact Checker were India's first verified members of the International Fact-Checking Network, affiliated with Pointer Institute. IndiaSpend is a member of the Global Investigative Journalism Network. Previously, he was the founder, editor-in-chief of Bloomberg TV India, a 24-hour business news service launched out of Mumbai in 2008. He continues to anchor seasonal shows in the business, economy, and financial market spaces on Indian broadcast television and on digital. We warmly welcome you, Mr. Govindraj Ethiraj, sir. And now we'll start Spotlight session, the future of media and entertainment. We welcome all the Spotlight speakers, and over to you, Mr. Govindraj Ethiraj, for moderating the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Raki, for that very, very kind and lengthy introduction. So welcome to all the panelists. So my background is that of a financial journalist. So I maybe appear to be at sea on occasion. So please forgive me for that. So we are a very diverse group here. So what I'll try and do is first set some parameters on what we can talk about, and which also I would hope that you can contribute. And secondly, try and find some common cause on what we mean and when we look at the future and what the future should be about. So let me look at it first like a financial journalist would, right? So the Indian, okay, let me go back a step before that. In 2006, the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, his name was Karunanidhi, gave away color television sets to people in Tamil Nadu. It was a 750 crore budget, right? Free color television sets. So people would wonder, and people wonder, why would someone do that, a politician, right? And then it struck someone that there may be many reasons, including the fact that someone in the family owns a cable TV network. But more than that, it's really about, entertainment is very critical. And if you meet people's entertainment needs, then you've taken care of a lot of their overall basic needs. So that's something I think maybe Tamil Nadu politicians understood quite well and much earlier in the game. Now, let's look at what the Indian media industry is looking like, right? So the last figures that I have, it's about 140,000 crores in 2020. That was down, obviously, because of COVID. This is media and entertainment as a whole. It's expected to go back to about 173,000 crores or $24 billion and continue to grow to about $223,000 by 2023. And depending on which consulting firm you believe, it could grow to almost 400,000 crores by 2025. So it's a big industry and it continues to grow. It may be smaller compared to many other countries, but it's still very large. Within that, there obviously are a lot of shifts and there have been discussions to that effect already. TV is large, but digital is and has overtaken print. And online gaming has also become much, much larger than perhaps the last time INFOCOM met here. OTT is a big phenomenon. There are anywhere between, let's say, 50 million plus subscribers on OTT platforms now. And remember that there are almost close to 500 million people on smartphones. So one way or the other, people are consuming the content that many of you are generating either in small bits or in very, very in large feature formats. So that's really the background. But on the other hand, if the industry may grow, it may become bigger, it may become more remunerative, but is it really what we would like to see? Is it really responding to and answering the very, very fundamental questions of what entertainment should do? Do artists and those in the space feel that they are free to practice the craft, or that they want to and they can? And do they really feel free as they always were? I'm not going to get into the politics right away, but because pressures can come in many ways. It can come because of a political environment. It can also come because of a business environment, which forces you to do certain things in a certain way. So all of that also becomes relevant. And while, like I said, the industry will grow, and that's the nature of a growing economy like ours, how it will grow and where it will go is really dependent on what you feel and how you drive it as participants here and participants in this industry. So on that note, I'm going to ask each of you to speak for about 4 or 5 minutes. And do forgive me if I interrupt you, because I do want everyone to come in. Post which we can have a conversation where we are going to be sitting around the table or the equivalent of sitting around a table, and try and maybe also answer some questions that people will have. So I'm going to go in alphabetical order with first name, and I'll ask Aniruddha Roy Chaudhary to go first. Aniruddha, it's over to you. You're on mute.
If I try to give you a backstory, when I wanted to make films, which was during my school days in class 10, so I used to go to a teacher. His name was Mr. Shomesh Dashgupta. So he told me one thing: film has to be learned. Filmmaking has to be learned. It can't be taught. First, you have to teach yourself. First, you have to understand what is a film. You have to watch good films. And trust me, during those times, there was nothing. There was no access. There was no ecosystem where you can watch good documentaries or good feature films or good European films. So nothing was accessible to us. So what we used to do, I used to live in Kolkata. So I used to peep in once in a year. There used to be a Kolkata Film Festival, and there were small film clubs, and I didn't have any money to buy a life membership or anything. So we used to peep in those small halls and used to watch bits and pieces of films. The first time I got exposed to a good cinema, that was in class 11 or 12 in South Point High School, where I used to study. I watched a film by Bergman called Virgin Spring. And trust me, I didn't understand anything, any bit of it. But I got hooked to the visuals, and I decided whatever will happen, I want to get into that. I want to be part of this system. And I started doing productions in different, and I joined advertising also during my college days. So what has happened now, a beautiful thing, people are watching films, people are watching audiovisual mediums, people are watching documentaries, series, where they are getting educated, not only entertained. Recently, I watched a documentary called My Teacher Octopus, which is one of my best favorite love story in my entire lifetime till now, So this is also a very important phase in our life where audience is getting a lot of good stuff, and they're demanding good films or good audiovisual, Now I know my friends and foes who used to go to cinema just for the sake of watching a film and having a glass of beer and having some popcorns during the weekend. Now they are asking me, Tony, what is the next film happening? Is the content good? Is it something of substance? Are you talking about something? I've seen some film which is so realistic. So the language of audience has also changed, and the demand is also changing. Hence, I am sure a very good time in terms. If you ask me about the monetary part, I'm not the right person to talk to you about that. But a very challenging, a very interesting part from the point of view of makers and audiences. It's a very symbiotic relationship. If we make good things, they will watch it. If they want good things, we'll make it. So that process has started. And this is, we can see rainbow in the sky. It's not only very so-called stereotypical commercial, only song and dance things which are happening. A serious film, a realistic film is also entertaining people. And I have numbers, they are also making good money in the box office. And a beautiful thing which has happened in our life for the last few years is the OTT platforms, Not only they are educating us, but also we are getting a scope to tell our stories without any baggage. There is not a pressure of scoring, Sometimes art is a medium, any kind of art, we want to participate. It's not always we have to win. So always, if there is a baggage, if there is somebody putting a gun in your head, you have to win this race. So the race is gone. So as far as I am concerned, I want to participate. Maybe I lose, maybe I win, I don't know. But that participation with your own story, with your own conviction is very important, and which shows on the screen. And if the conviction shows on the screen, it works. This is my belief. So it's good time for us, for all the actors, for all the makers, for all the producers too.
Okay, thank you. That's a very encouraging start. Let's see if we can sort of hold that thought and hold that sentiment. Rasika, Dugal, do you want to go next?
Hi, yeah. I think, well, it's been a great change for actors like me over the last few years, the coming of the streaming services. I had done a lot of independent films before, early on in my career, starting about 2008 to 2013. And at that time, I felt like there was such a lot of good content that I was getting an opportunity to be a part of. But the bottleneck was always distribution. And it was very discouraging, because I felt those stories were beautifully written and beautifully told, but there was no way to get them to reach a wider audience. And always, whenever we would try to sell a smaller film, the feedback given to us was always the audience is not ready. And I totally disagreed even at that time. I felt always that the audience was very versatile and we were not giving them the kind of variety that they had the ability to consume. So every time I would bring this up, people would say, "Arey, you're an actor, you know nothing about marketing, about distribution, anything. So please keep quiet. This is what sells and this is what doesn't sell." And I would say, "Yeah, TK, you all are business people. Maybe I don't know what you're talking about." But I think the streaming services have, to some extent, dispelled the myth that audiences are only want a certain kind of content. And that has been very encouraging to creative people like me. And I remember there was a film called Kissa, which I had worked in with Irfan and Tiska and Tilotma in 2012, which I believed was a very beautiful story and a very beautifully made film. At that time, it had released in 2 theaters in Bombay. And I remember I used to walk around with the DVD of the film to every meeting that I went to. And I said, "Hey, have you seen Kissa? Please watch it." And I'm glad that I don't have to do that today. And there is room for all kinds of content. There is room for variety. There is a show like Made in Heaven and a show like Mirzapur, 2 completely different shows, and both consumed with as much gusto. So it is an encouraging time. Of course, it's not that all the content on OTT platforms is great. There is the good and the bad, but according to me, but at least there is room for variety. There is room for different genres. There's room for different aesthetics. And I think I'm still in the phase where I'm celebrating that. Yes, political pressure and curbing of freedom is a problem, which is something that all of us should discuss. And yeah, so that's it.
So I like it that you said we should discuss and then you stopped. Anyway, so, okay, but we'll come back to you. Richa, Chadha, you want to go next?
Hi, apologies. I'm on a very loud and noisy set. So if you hear a blow dryer or something going off, my apologies in advance. I definitely think that I owe my career to small independent films. They sort of became cult films over the years, whether it was Oe Lucky or Masan. And I definitely think that today what is a very, very promising sign is that we have stars that are stars born out of the OTT space. Like my friend Jaideep Pehlawat, who, was first seen in Gangs of Wasipur but became a star after Patal Lok, or Pratik Gandhi, who had done theatre in a few films but became a star after Scam, or a fantastic actress like Shefali Shah, who doesn't have dates anymore because of Delhi crime. So I definitely think that this has created some amount of democracy, at least for the actors in the industry, because we always had this discussion of what it means to be an insider and an outsider and how to break into these places. So definitely there is that. The bottleneck of distribution, I completely agree with Rasika. Sometimes on a small film, the production budget would be 3 crores, but the P&A, or the publicity and advertising cost, would be something like 5 crores, which was frankly unaffordable to so many. I had films that were stuck for release simply because they were not considered commercially viable, or the producers were out of money after they'd spent the 3 crores or 4 crores on filming, and they didn't have the money to do the P&A. Without doing the P&A, you wouldn't make the requisite amount of noise to have your film even register in the minds of the audience. So I definitely think that the OTTs are a real breather in that sense. And I remember when the first time when Netflix released that film, um, it was a huge game changer, because I was sitting with a bunch of producers, and uh, I think this was somewhere around 2016 or something, when the first film released, and they were like, okay, they have basically rendered the distributor obsolete. I don't fully agree in the Indian context, but I think that we are slowly getting there today, especially in the light of COVID. I think the Hindi film industry particularly owes a very big thanks to streaming platforms like Netflix and Amazon and Hotstar, because they are the ones that are giving filmmakers the funds to make the films that they want to, at the scale at which they want to, and supporting them in terms of a release and in terms of publicity. So I definitely see it as a good sign. And the other thing that I see, which makes me as a creative person very happy, is that when a series is written, because it has to be near perfect, and the involvement from the platforms in the development process is quite high, it is forcing film writing to be better, because the people have been introduced to a content, to basically better writing. They're no longer accepting the leave your brains at home kind of cinema, uh, which of course it has its place in the world, and we will always coexist happily. But um, it's forcing the writers of film, the directors of film, to work that much harder, because you're vying for the same attention. And people are watching things like never before. They're watching things solo, away from the prying eyes of the parents. Gone are the days when, for color televisions and all, my parents tell me you had to go into someone else's house, and everybody has their own tablet device with data penetration. This has become a very, very private sort of viewing experience, which I also, as a lover of cinema, I really, really enjoy. And I think that the future is bright still for the platforms in India, for us to grow along with the cinemas, because many people think it's mutually exclusive, but the fact is that it's not. They are codependent in a very real way, in with the big bucks. And I think it's also it's not entirely accurate to say that people are no longer watching long films. They're maybe used to watching the series format, which is like 45-minute films or 1 hour films, um, instead of 2.5 hours. But they're watching 6 episodes in one go. That's why it's called binge watching. And I personally do feel like it's a really good time. So many directors that had struggled with releases after the coming of the OTT. The most brilliant example is Sudhir Mishra. The man is a living legend, but he's made amazing films like Hazaro Khwaishein Aisi, which won international laurels, and Dharavi. But when a serious man releases on Netflix and does the kind of uh, business, which I mean, of course, it's a secret, but if the film has worked or not, and wins a nomination, it makes me personally very happy. It warms the cockles of my heart to see him flourishing in this phase of his life and wanting to make more and more cinema. So I think we should all accept this change in the same way as we have accepted other changes of technology and what technology does to entertainment, to the viewing experience. Um, I don't really necessarily believe that video killed the radio star, but I don't think cinema will be killed by the presence of OTT. I think it will be helped by the presence of OTT in India.
Okay. I have a feeling I almost framed the question saying, is there a future for this thing? I don't think the question is there a future? I think the question is, how big is the future? And I'm not saying you responded to that, but I just want to reiterate for all those who are listening that we're really trying to understand what the future of media and entertainment in India will look like. I gave the numbers. The numbers are very, very encouraging. The industry is going to grow substantially by leaps and bounds, as it were, financially, and which means all of this is going to grow too. But I think in what way is the question, which might be important to those particularly on the creation side of it. So on that note, Tanya, Bami, or the person or an organization who's been getting a lot of accolades so far, go ahead.
Amazing points, I think, Richa and everyone else. And actually, to the anecdote you started with, Govind, I think, what a lovely journey and what a long and quick journey from 2006 to 2021, where the medium for entertainment has to be distributed to now having it literally at your fingertip, with entertainment being literally a touch away. So it's, I would say, the rising tide sort of lifts all boats. And I think that's the sentiment that applies to all of us at any level, whether it's a business, whether it's creators, whether it's talent. And I think it's a golden phase of entertainment. And I think we're all sort of super excited to be a part of that. I think one of the key things that really works is the creative, expression that this medium allows. Creators, talent, on screen, off screen, all of it. I think the medium doesn't stipulate a particular format or a duration or a kind of content that must, not be made or must be made. And I think there's such diverse tastes that one can cater to. There are such diverse audiences that can be talked to within the country and beyond, to be able to tell your stories and not really work that hard to have your voice heard or be picked up organically. This beautiful word of mouth that takes our stories beyond just home territory. It's an experience that only this medium can perhaps bring to this scale. So I think that's one of the strongest sort of strengths of the medium. I think it's also about just the kinds of stories that we can tell. There is a broad basing of and diversifying of whether it's female-led story or female forward stories, whether it is the hidden stories that one sort of knew as folklore or just stories from the deep recesses of the country, or just wild leaps of imagination and just the potential of that. And if you look at something like a Squid Game, which came and became a phenomenon, not just in Korea and then suddenly all over the world, I think it just sort of raises, tells us that the audience has matured so much to be able to make those choices and to really ask for content and look out for stories that resonate with each of them individually. So, like we had said, when we all sort of remember at the time when Parasite won the Oscar, that 1-inch barrier of subtitles, I think we well overcome it. And if we look at just closer home at Netflix, our titles like Jagme Thandiram and Navrasa, they've trended in 25 countries, 12 countries across, for like, I think over 2 to 3 months, and people have consumed them. Our series are traveling, are being consumed all over. So it's such an exciting time for all of us. And I think it's like the numbers are staggering. The prospects are equally staggering and exciting, I would say.
Okay, Tanya. So before I come to Zubin, a couple of quick questions. People would like to know, how does Netflix choose a film? And you're also in a competitive space. I mean, you're up against other OTTs, both local Indian as well as global. So how do you choose a film, and what's the mark or the stamp that you put in it, which makes it a Netflix film or Netflix documentary?
I would say whether it's actually any of our stories, whether it's a film, a series, an unscripted piece of content, reality, documentaries, I think first and foremost, it would be the clarity of the vision of the creator. That would be one of the most, important things. What is the story that we want to tell? How relevant or how distinct is it? How will our audiences, we feel, will connect to it? and how exciting it is. And I actually feel like, I often say that there is, when we sit in a meeting with a creator who has a story to tell, it is almost like magic when you sort of hear that story sort of flow out of that person's imagination. Even just through those words, you can actually see it. So there is nothing more precious than that clarity of the journey we want to make in the film. And whether then it is 120 minutes or, it is 8 episodes of an hour each, it doesn't matter, because it is really about that vision. And then we are the facilitators of that vision to be able to have different creators, with different experiences to come and really deliver their best with us.
And how many scripts pass through your table, and what's your acceptance rejection rate?
I think the bar we hold ourselves to is really being able to tell the most distinct, most engaging and most refined creative stories that will talk to our audiences within the country. And there is nothing better than a word of mouth kind of marketing tool than to have these stories travel. And that, I mean, we know the success formulas of like a Sacred Games to a Squid Game or Money Heist. These are all examples of just local content in those markets, just, really having that virality to it, because it just resonates so authentically. So I think the key thing in a story is just clarity of vision and how authentically that story is told. How deeply it will resonate with the audiences of that particular market. And then I think the boundaries are blurred.
Okay, so nicely not answered my question, but anyway, that's okay. We'll come back to that.
I'll answer it. How many scripts pass through us? We have a really dense, and very rich pipeline of ideas that come to us every day across the team, between films and series and reality and documentaries. So I think just for our own sanity, I don't think we put a count to it, but I'd say it's very vast. We have programmed, we have a very rich slate for 2021. I think we've rolled out about 17 titles. Next year is very exciting. If I just give you a sense of how December looks, it's almost dreamlike to be in this situation after the pandemic, etc. We've just launched Suryavanshi, which is a pay one title. Money Heist launched yesterday, the final part. We have Aranyak coming up on next Friday, which is the 10th of December. On the 17th of December is a delightful comedy called Decoupled. Then we have Minnal Murli, which is a South film coming out on the 24th of December. There's another season of Witcher, Emily in Paris, and that's just December. So if we have to produce and we have to engage with our members with these many stories, the number of stories that we plow through across our various offices and teams, the volume is fairly high, but so is the discretionary filter to sort of ensure that we are meeting the expectation that our members have of us.
Right. No, and the one reason I asked that question is only to understand what's the kind of creative flow that you have to deal with at least from within India. Aniruddha, let me come back to you. So one of the things that's clear is that the future of media and entertainment industry in India is also about the future of media and entertainment globally, because what people are consuming is really now a global palette of content. It's not just content that you are producing or our other two colleagues on the panel are involved in as creative participants. So how does that inform or impact your own work, if so?
See, local is the new global, So basically what everybody is saying, that you have to be convinced with, and you have to have proper clarity what you want to do. You have to tell a good story, a true story, which you believe. And it resonates. Somehow it resonates. So I am working on the subjects which I believe, which I had and which I canned long time back. Even Lost. It's a woman-centric film, It's about a crime journalist who is trying to find out the truth, which I got from a real journalist in Kolkata. So now it's a time to tell your true stories. The main problem which has gone, I'll tell you, when I produced and directed Onuron in 2005 with our own money, with the help of a friend of mine. I went to US with cans, tried to distribute it through my friends. Nothing happened. I was in Bombay. Every week I used to come here. I used to travel by local train with my laptop and showing from one place to another. This is the film I have made. Please distribute it. We didn't have any idea. Though the multiplex has just started. And it was a real huge pain to distribute a Bangla small film. It was not we spent a lot of money. It was not it's shot in London, Sikkim, Kolkata. But now life has become so easier that like the Bengali is the 6th largest speaking language in all over the world. It's a huge diaspora, but we couldn't reach anybody, So now, due to the Netflixes, Prime, Disney's, Hulu's of the world, you can, at least your film will be seen by a lot of people, which it's an artist's dream. Why we make an art? We want people to watch it. So I want to believe in my stuff. My agenda is I want to do what I believe, what I can do. I don't want to, I'll not be able to make a film which is larger than life. I know I lack it, but I want to make a film which is true, realistic. I stick to my place and that has a market. That's the promising thing which OTT, and also I'm sure cinema will come back in a huge way. Cinema will also provide. There is a mirror effect of OTT to the multiplexes. Now, people have become educated. People have become, their hunger has grown high, I mean, they want to watch good stuff. They want to absorb, they want to enjoy good films. So it's a good time. It's a good time for all artists, for makers, for producers, for actors, for music directors to experiment what they believe. The way we are consuming Argentinian films, the way we are consuming films from Middle East, the way we are consuming Israeli films, So it's a great time. So whether in whatever language, we have seen how the Malayalam films are doing well, how the Marathi films are doing well. So we have to we have to true to ourselves and we have to create. I think that era has started. Now, I don't know how it will last, how we can, do the right things in right time and proper way. But there is a silver lining, things are not that bad, which was 10 years back.
Okay, and then we'll do some crystal ball gazing towards the end of our discussion, which is not too far away. So let me get a few words in on creative expression. Rasika, do you want to go first? I mean, where do you stand on creative expression today? I mean, we've acknowledged now that the floodgates have opened up. There is enough and immense opportunity to distribute, to show, to do the kind of stories you want to do, but are you really able to say what you want? Can you stretch the definition of creative expression maybe the way you can in other Western democracies? Is that an issue at all? And I'm going to come to Richa as well on that.
The thing about creative expression, I always feel, is that it finds its way anyway. And it's very interesting, in fact, to watch films which are made in very oppressive regimes. This is not to condone a regime at all, but I'm just saying from a creative person's point of view, it's interesting to see what art can do and how it can find ways. You can't curb expression. And I feel that that stories sort of dictate the way that they should be told. Some might be more overt, some might be more subtle. I hope that there is always room for the overt and the subtle. And as a creative person, there's always constant worry about that. But given the current situation, I'm not sure how the mechanisms that are sort of being put in place, whether they're working or not. Maybe Tanya can tell us more about that. But I don't know if the grievance redressal system is something which is beneficial or not on ground, So those are things that I constantly worry about. And yeah, like I said, I would hope that there is room for both kinds.
Okay, Richa? You're on mute, Richa.
I honestly feel this question of how much can you say and how can you say, this is more for creators, for directors, producers, for platforms, what they will allow. Because let's face it, everyone has a legal team in place safeguarding the interests of themselves and their own companies. Perhaps when I get to a stage when I write something, I will use maybe subversion, you know, or circumnavigate the rules in some ways so that, you know, like no one goes to jail basically, because it also depends on the climate. But uh, when you say there is um, resistance in any kind of freedom of expression, uh, resistance always presumes a force, right? That is sort of all pervasive and controlling. So uh, I agree with Rasika. There are always interesting films that you watch when you figure out the context. I mean, they're really interesting. There's a film called Somnambulist. I think Rasika, you may also have seen it. It was about sleepwalkers. But when I watched the film, I didn't quite understand, and uh, then I realized it was made in 1930s Germany. So, you know, things really depend on the context, and I I hope that I can somehow subvert things and, you know, still keep talking, making sense if I tomorrow become a writer.
Do you feel that your public persona as a person, as a person, as in not in the acting space, weighs or determines what the roles you will get or not get? And
No, in fact, quite the opposite happens. My When people meet me, they're like, "Oh, you're so mild mannered, but the roles you play are so tough." They all, you know, you're kind of abusive. You talk in Hindi, and you're not afraid of anyone. You're the usually the adjectives that the press use for me are bold, badass, bindas, and I am quite frankly, I'm just you know, trying to be honest and using my words judiciously, and uh, that sometimes comes across like some kind of act of courage. And uh, how people respond to me in my personal life actually is sadly determined by which movie of mine they've seen. So, you know, it makes me think back to the days when Amrish Puri and Prem Chopra could casually hang out, you know, despite being like the notorious villains and the evil guys they were, you know, in Juhu. But no, I don't think that my offline persona determines the roles I get offered.
okay. Tanya, what's it like today to, when, let's say, OTT platform started streaming into India, there was no regulation to the point today that you have considerable regulation, and also the prospect of anyone anywhere in this vast country going to court and saying that I've been offended by one line in that one either TV series, or a series or a movie. How is that world? I mean, what has that meant for you? And maybe as you select what you select, and how careful are you, and does that affect the eventual creative output?
I think our journey has been to actually find, distinct, unique, creative voices from the country, people who have stories to tell, people who have, a creative expression that really will connect far and deep. And I actually, if I think really to the way we look at our stories, I don't think much has changed. I think we still look for stories that will have a deep impact with our connect with our audiences, that will have a deep impact maybe beyond India, but with a focus on India. I think the one thing I think the environment and all of us are learning together is to be responsible in our storytelling. Does that change the direction of the storytelling? I don't think so. I think there are so many genres, formats, approaches that I don't think we're so early on in the curve really of optimizing and maximizing the potential of this medium that I think it's far from restrictive at all. It's an exciting time to explore ourselves creatively and really come forth with our best. And I think we're all responsible enough to know the kind of stories that our audiences will appreciate. So I think it's a shared responsibility between us and our creators, and I think at some level our audiences to receive and to make stories that connect.
Okay, Aniruddha, do you feel pressured sometimes to, I'm not saying the whole story, but tune stories in a way that it does not offend someone? And do you feel that people are less tolerant, or do you feel nothing's changed?
Maybe I am a little bit lucky. I'm getting calls from producers that make a film for me and your kind of story. So, and as far as audiences are concerned, they are ready to take this, but I don't know. Obviously, there are so much of regulations. What I'm hearing that a lot of regulations are coming in OTT scenario also. That would be very sad. The voices will go. But we are not, right now, I personally am not getting succumbed to that. It's not that you have to do this so that people will get angry or some political agenda. You tell your story. And so this is which I am liking, and we have to fight for that. That is our voice. We have to unite and we have to fight for that. Suddenly we have seen some kind of, voices which are coming on OTT, interesting films and series. Suddenly, if we have to go away from that, again, get back into that old scenario, it will be very unfortunate. But let's see. I am a little bit lucky right now. I can't complain that I am trying to do my kind of stories, which is not very offensive, but this is a political drama also a little bit. I don't know what will happen. Let's see.
Okay, go ahead, Richa. You're on mute.
Yes, I'm sorry. I really need to leave. I have, put a virtual background and this room is actually full of people. So I really need to leave. My apologies. I would have loved to chat further about this. Thank you for this excellent and thought-provoking panel. And bye, Tonida. Bye, Tanya. Bye, Rasika. And thanks, Govind. Take care and catch you soon. I need to leave. Sorry.
Not at all. Thank you very much. We are going to be wrapping up in about 10 minutes in any case. So let's do some, crystal ball gazing, and let me come back to you, Tanya. So as you look ahead, what is it that you would like to see in terms of, from your point of view, either better understanding of consumers? I mean, I didn't bring in the COVID aspect because I think everyone has talked about post-COVID. So that's now it's embedded into our thinking and our responses, either as organizations or creators. So tell us about what you're looking out for. What are the big trends that you're seeing, and how are you responding?
I think we're just getting started, and I can't emphasize that enough. And I don't just mean about us. I mean about all platforms. The stories are just coming out. It's an exciting time. I gave you a snapshot of December, so I won't repeat that. But for us, it's so exciting to look forward into 2022. We have some of our best sort of packed in. We start the year with a dynamic romantic thriller about a man caught between a woman who loves him and a woman who desires him. So we've sort of reversed the gender equation here, and it's a thriller, unlike I think what may have been seen. So very exciting start to the year. We have the Kapil Sharma special coming up, which is, he's a distinct voice in his own self, and that's a very different format, very exciting to sort of look at that. We have Finding Anamika, which is a drama series headlined by Madhuri Dixit. We have a very gritty crime thriller from the Clean Slate stable called Mai, and this is just the beginning. So in that sense, I feel if I just look at, if we are programming like this, I think it's also indicative of how audiences consume. And what we've seen is about 80% of our audience base sort of reaches out for one film every week. And 56% of them sort of use an OTT, so 56% of I think the Indian OTT audience uses an OTT service more than once a week. So the trends are fairly, they're laid out for us. It's exciting times for creators. There's going to be a burst of creative expression, great stories to latch on to. And I think the audiences are going to find what is relevant to them and really, have those, connect with those stories. So when I look ahead, I actually, like Tonida said, I think we see a rainbow in the sky. I think that's a great way to put it.
You see, for example, I'm also trying to get a sense of whether there are any trends directionally. So you mentioned, for instance, that every week someone wants to see a full-blooded feature film.
Yeah.
And that obviously puts pressure on you because you have to invest more to deliver that. Are there any other trends like that? I mean, in terms of what's consumer demand likely to be, as you're saying, not just immediately in the next 6 months, but let's say next couple of years?
Yeah, I think, we know we love our movies, and the numbers that I gave you sort of, I don't think audiences choose between an original film and a pay one title. So if I look at, a film like Suryavanshi and now Minnal Murali, they will both find their audience. I think what's happened, and I think in that sense, COVID and the love that we received from our members all over the world sort of pulled the future forward, and in that sense, really changed the way audiences are even experiencing cinema. So it's a home experience now, and that's a trend that I think is going to be here to stay. I think COVID has caused audiences to change their behavior, to explore titles like they've never explored before. If I think about before COVID, Money Heist, for example, was not a phenomenon in India. And during COVID, they've sort of found it, discovered it, given it love to the extent that you can sort of almost hear it in the environment like we've never seen for a Spanish show. And then, there are kids playing Squid Game games all over. And I mean, like, not just online, but I mean, like, literally in playgrounds. Those are phenomena that just talk about how strong stories connect. And I think they're agnostic of formats. They're agnostic of languages. And so, which is why, the way we look at our future is to program and invest very heavily in content and differentiated stories in Hindi, in Tamil, in Telugu, in various languages, so that we are able to really connect with the diverse audience, because the audience is ready.
Okay. Rasika, how are you seeing the next couple of years from your vantage point as an actor, creator? You did say that, the arena has definitely opened up. What would you like to do, or what's your wish list like?
The wish list is, of course, endless as usual. Actors are greedy people, as you all must know. But just to sort of, the one thing that, since everybody sounded so positive about everything, I feel responsible to add a glum quotient to this conversation, which is that, as a creative person, as an actor, I'm finding it hard currently to deal with the frequency with which we are expected to churn out material. And I guess that happens every time a show becomes successful. There's pressure on producers, pressure on platforms to constantly have new content. So I'm nervous about how season 2s, for example, of shows are happening, because sometimes it's a lot of time to work on season 1, and you do all of that and you create these beautiful characters and stories, and you need that time again to make something good, and that sometimes doesn't happen. Then people are so keen to get a show going that sometimes the writing does become shoddy all over again, So those are a couple of things that I am sort of trying to avoid in this journey, which has been so beautiful so far. And I hope that I'm able to but there is still a lot of very good stuff happening. So I hope that I'm able to keep the quality of the work. I've thoroughly enjoyed what I've been working on so far. So that has increasingly become a challenge. And that's what I'm trying to avoid.
Right. And that's an important point, because somewhere it plays to the entire demand-supply equation that we're talking about, even at a business level. Aniruddha, pretty much last word to you, unless we have any questions. How are you looking at, if you were to, crystal ball gaze, what's the future looking like? What are the challenges, opportunities that you see ahead?
See, the future is good. There are a lot of opportunities, but nothing is easy. If we think everything future is very easy, no, that's not. if you ask me whether future is good, yes, future is good. What we have to do, basically write it, believe in your stuff. If I believe my things, I believe my writing or I believe my film, people will believe that. And I always advise myself that don't take the pressure of performing top. Let's make a film, let's believe in that subject. So, but one thing everybody is saying, what Tanya also said, now people want to consume good stuff. Now, like everybody knows Rasika, we have seen Manto, we have seen The Doctor's Story. I forgot the name. What a beautiful series was that.
Out of Love.
Out of Love. A lot of things are happening. People are watching. I didn't watch Masan in the theater. I missed it. I have seen on OTT. So we are reaching out people, reaching out good art, and people need this. There is post-COVID, there is a need for good entertainment, good and decent entertainment. So it's a good time. It's a good time. How we can maintain this, how we can keep this going. The flow has to be right. And one thing we must say, the interference of the OTT platforms, it's extremely good. I am doing something where the, reciprocation, where the fight is extremely healthy, and they are coming without any baggage. They are asking, they are also educating us. We are also, and there's a nice conversation. From there, some interesting things are happening. Always, good, bad, ugly, everything is part of the system. Nothing is white, nothing is black, or nothing. A lot of gray areas are there. But overall, if you ask me, it's a good time.
Okay, thank you for that. We talked about demand and supply, and it's interesting, Rasika, that you brought up the challenges of oversupply and what can happen if either people demand too much, or OTTs or those who create content or produce content feel compelled to, anticipate what demand might be. So maybe I want to give Tanya a word in on that respect, because that in some ways determines the creative future of this entire space. And then I'm going to hand it back to Raki. Go ahead.
No, a very, very valid point, and I don't think it's glum. I think it's real. I think these stories connect because they're so beautifully written. They're so beautifully created. There's that clarity that I was talking about. There's a cinematic quality and aesthetic that sort of connects. And I think if we lose that, and I think we lose the edge that we have really. But I would say, and sorry for being the eternal optimist here, but that I think necessity is the mother of invention. And in that sense, if there is this much demand, and it lends to innovations, right? It lends to not having a singular bottlenecked vision, and which is where the writers' rooms come in, where the writers sort of challenge each other to create that product which has a singularity of vision but diverse voices, and or when production supplies are, demands are so pressing, there are innovations in production, whether it's with virtual productions or whether, whatever. And that's where platforms like us come in, where we are educating our teams, our partners, whether it's in post-production and running a program, to sort of educate and create perhaps assistant editors to support the requirement, or if it is writing programs to sort of facilitate creators. So there is, we recently did at IFI, we did a visual storytelling workshop with Gobelin from France, which was extremely successful. So I think it is also the responsibility of platforms to really give to the industry that we take from, and that's really where the growth will come from, and that is where the richness of storytelling will sort of keep it. It's a virtuous cycle of really fueling, the minds and the abilities of these beautiful creators we work with.
Right. So the future of media and entertainment, the subject for today is indeed bright, and if not creatively vibrant, exciting, and something truly wondrous to look forward to. So on that note, thank you, Tanya, Aniruddha, Rasika, and Richa, who joined us earlier. And thank you for inviting me, Raki, and thank you to the ABP group for hosting me back after a few years. So it's back to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Govindraj, Ethiraj sir, for moderating the session. And I'd like to thank all the spotlight speakers for joining us. Aniruddha sir, Rasika ma'am, Richa ma'am, and Tanya ma'am for joining us. It has been a pleasure hearing you, and it has been an interesting session.